Life is better lived when we complement one another. Strength comes from our differences as opposed to our differences being problems. In this episode, we're going to be sharing with you valuable mindsets that will allow you to be able to build on your differences and build in a better relationship.
Welcome to Relationship Real Talk with your hosts, Mary
and Julius Enielu.
On this show, we talk all things relationship, always keeping it real. And want you to sit tight and engage with us on this episode. Now, if you missed the last episode, we want you to watch it because there we started to talk about some of the reasons why people are tempted to want to make their spouses like them and the dangers. And we promise we'll come with a follow-up episode to share some mind shifts that could help you turn those differences into strengths. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So you want to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. You want to hit the share button because your friends need to hear this. And you obviously want to like the video as well. What's there not to like? We want to talk about mind shifts because very often when people want a different result, they're looking at changing behavior. And changing behavior is important. But I've found that if you want to create lasting, sustainable change, where that change needs to start is in how you think. And so we want to look at some of the ways of thinking about differences that may be causing us to want to change our partners, looking at how to change that so that we start to see those differences as enhancements and benefits to our relationship.
Yeah. The scripture says that as a man thinks, so is he. You can change behaviors and it will produce results for a while, but then you would default back to how the mind is coded in a matter of time. So
we want to learn to decode that mind.
So the effort should be on understanding the mind, understanding the mindset. Why do I do what I do? And once you get an understanding of that, you will be equipped to change it because every mindset was acquired. And because they were acquired, you can let them go. But going back to the points that you were making earlier, in getting the best of our differences, as opposed to being afraid of our differences, but making the best of it, understanding each other. So, I pay attention to understanding my partner, as we just did, make an effort to understanding them, we're our way there to making a stronger relation.
Yeah, absolutely. And even going further back, for you to make the effort to want to understand someone, you need to accept that you don't know all there is to know and that you're not perfect. You don't have all the answers. I think that is one mind shift that every one of us needs to make if we're going to position ourselves in a way that we can accept differences as strengths rather than problems. Change your mindset from this is right and this is wrong. Because very often the reason you want to change someone is you've drawn a conclusion. You've made up your mind. My way of doing it is right. Your way of doing it is wrong. I'm right. You're wrong. And once you hold on to that mindset, there's no need then to try and understand the other person. What's the point? Because I'm right and you're wrong. So that's the first thing you need to change. It's not a question of right or wrong. It's just different. It's just different. And different is not bad. Different is actually good. Having different perspectives is good. Having different ways of seeing things is a strength, not a weakness. So that's a first mind shift that you need to make. Just know that the fact that you've done it this way for so long doesn't mean that is the best way of doing it. Doesn't mean that is the only way of doing it. Doesn't even mean that is a right way of doing it. Be open, have a growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset.
Embrace your differences. Embrace and explore your differences.
Exploration is key.
So embrace, welcome, almost call for differences. I'm not saying call for argument, but call for differences. How boring would life be if we all like the same car, we all like the same food, we like to go to watch the same movie? We will be robotic. But life is fun because we are different. You like purple, I like yellow, and when you look at it all combined together, it looks glorious. So our differences bring color to our lives. So we should welcome, we should call for, we should explore it, we should embrace it. It takes a lot, it takes a lifetime of growing up to be able to come to this level that you feel safer with your differences. You feel safer because, for example, you bring some balance into my life, in the way you think, in the way you talk. And maybe I don't think about those things like that. Do you understand what I mean? So those differences bring balance. It brings safety. There would be a few things in our life that I'm grateful that you saw it different because it brought balance, So as opposed to seeing our differences as problems, no, they are actually safety guards.
So the only reason you were able to open up yourself to the point where you could see the value in what I was bringing was because you knew that you didn't have all the answers. Which is why I'm saying that mind shift needs to happen before you even start to appreciate the differences. You need to accept that it's not a question of I'm right, you're wrong, or you're wrong, I'm right. Because sometimes the reason why people don't want to accept other people's views or their way of doing things is because they always operate from this place of you're right, I'm wrong, or I'm right, or you're wrong. I win, you lose. And so if you're winning, I'm losing. That's the way they see it.
That's the way it is.
So I don't want to lose. If I don't want to lose, then I have to win. And you have to lose. Well, that's not the way life works. It doesn't have to be a win-lose option. It could be win-win.
That's a good
right? It could be win-win. And the way you do
wait.
You both can win. So you bring your win, I bring my win. We look at it. I mean, I've heard John Maxwell say several times, most of my great ideas were not mine. Right? So if you have 5 people in a room, one person brings a good idea, another person brings another good idea, another person brings another good idea. You can look at those 5 good ideas and looking and talking about it, you can come up with one exceptionally fantastic idea. So it's not a win-lose, it's a win-win. I think that is so important to recognize that when you're accepting somebody else's point of view, it doesn't mean you're losing. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It doesn't mean you are not good enough. It doesn't mean you're not enough. It just means you accept and acknowledge that together we actually achieve more.
Yeah, absolutely. And another mindset that is essential is realizing that we are not at war. You're not my enemy.
Mm-hmm.
Neither am I your enemy. We are in this together.
Yeah.
We're in this together. And with that mindset, you hold back a little bit from being negative to the other person. You accept that what they bring in is essential for us to be able to build a better relationship.
Yeah. No, I think that's so important. We're not fighting each other. We're not in competition with each other. We are working together to achieve something. And so if I acknowledge that we're working together, I can't just stay fixed where I am. I need to understand where you are, and I need to be open to receive what you have. But the other thing is also making the shift from being a fixer to understanding.
Yeah.
Because when you always want to fix a problem, you will always lead from that place of, I have the solution. I have the solution.
Yeah.
But if you will take a little step back, and rather than trying to fix everyone and fix everything, put on a hat that is curious. Curiosity is a good thing. Honestly, it's a good thing because when you're curious, you leave room for exploration. You mentioned exploring a moment ago, but if you're not curious, you're not going to want to explore. You're just going to want to stick to what you know, what you've always done, what perhaps has always worked.
Yeah.
But life is so dynamic these days. I mean, we live in a fast changing world. Even in the business arena, even in the workplace, life is changing so quickly. You cannot keep doing what you've always done, expecting that you will keep getting even the results you used to get, because life is so quick. And because life is so quick, we always have to be open to hear other people's perspectives and what they bring to the table.
There was a wisdom I learned years ago. If you listen, you will hear. Yeah. And I'm not talking about being quiet. Being quiet is a part of listening, but if you listen, you will hear. If you listen to the fool, you will get wisdom. If you listen to the wise, you will get wisdom. In other words, you can learn from anybody. If you have this mindset of, like you said, I know how to fix it. I know the solution to the problem. You may know the solution to the problem, but what about the other person knowing a better way of solving the problem?
It's possible. And so that's what we need to be open to, that the other person might actually have an answer, and theirs a better answer, and that their way of doing things might actually end up being better. And but it might not. But there's no harm in being open to hear. And you might take some aspects of what they're coming up with, merge it with some aspects of what you're coming up with, and you come up with even a better way of doing it. So trying to change your spouse is absolutely not the answer. You both bring something different to the table, and you're there to complement each other so you can be stronger. That's the idea. So you can be stronger. It's so tempting to want to do things with people that are like us. Right? They bring the same sort of idea, the same sort of thoughts to the table, but then you're just going to have the same all the time. But if you can open up yourself to collaborate, interact with people who think differently, they're going to bring thoughts that would never occur to you, that would make maybe what you're trying to work on, take it to a completely different level. And even just narrowing it down to romantic relationships. In our relationship, for instance, I think we've come to that place now, after over 30 years of marriage. We've come to that place where we actually recognize each other's strengths. We easily recognize it, and we are very appreciative of it. So we know you don't bring a hammer to screw a nail to the wall. You use a screwdriver, right? So if you look at it like in your home, there's a toolbox and you have different tools in the box. You get the right tool for the right job. Sometimes you need a screwdriver, sometimes you need the paintbrush, sometimes you need a hammer. And everyone in the relationship has their own strengths. So it's about recognizing those strengths and realizing that's what we need for this problem. You've got it, bring it. Yeah. But if you are never open to explore, to be curious about what the other person has, if you always want to shut it down because it's not what you have, it's never how you would do it, it's never how you would think about it, you would not even know the tools that you have in your toolbox.
Yeah.
Right?
It is true. The Bible says one will chase 1,000 and two will put 10,000 to flight. So when you build together with wisdom, you have exponential potentials. As opposed to, I know all there is to know, and therefore I lead this conversation. I lead the project management, but allowing the other person to bring themselves. But by that, I mean, you allow them to be themselves, to be authentic, to bring their strengths to the table. And then the back goes on to say, can two walk together except they be agree? Be agree on what? First of all, they agree that they don't know it all. They agree that they're not perfect. They agree on the common value, but understanding each other. The agreement goes on and on. So, when we work together like that, knowing that I don't have all the solutions, my partner has some valuable solutions without which we will be able to get to the end goal, then you will forever be fighting issues that needs no fighting, solving problems that need no attention. But when you build together hand in hand, call for each other's strength and energy and just moving forward, where you work together as a team, that you're two or you're separate, because it doesn't have to just be husband and wife. It could be a team of people working together, allowing each other to bring their authentic self to the table, the strengths that then go to contribute, listening to each other. And as you do this, you're able to produce this beautiful thing that could only have been created by the amalgamation of the several differences on the table.
Yes.
Something that you could never be able to do by yourself. Even if you're able to do it, it's going to take you 1,000 years to do. But when you come together, you get there much quicker, basically.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not always easy, right? We have to admit, it's not always easy. It's easier to some degree, it's easier to want to just change the other person. So there's no friction, there's no tension, there's nothing to get used to. It's same, it's comfortable. Last episode, we were talking about comfort zone. It's easy, it's safe, it's what I'm used to, it's predictable. that could feel easier, but then you deny yourself the blessing and the benefit of growing. I mean, the last episode you were giving the example of our sons, how the first one was, it was kind of easy for us to parents, because he would listen when you tell him to sit down and not do what you don't want him to do. It was easier. The second one was more challenging, right? So we could try to break him and mold him and make him something he wasn't, because it would have been easier for us. But then that would prevent us from growing as parents. It will prevent us from growing in patience. It will prevent us from coming up with different creative ways of getting him to... And this continued even through school. We found that in primary school, he had this challenge because teachers wanted to put him in a box, in a mold with every other child in the class. Be like that child, be like that child. But every child is different. If you're a teacher, you need to be hearing that. Every child is different. And so we could try and squeeze everybody in a box because it's easier for us, or we could grow in being innovative, in being more patient, in being more creative in how we deal with people, because that's going to be better for them. So not stifling people, not trying to make them like you, will help you grow and mature, because then you can deal with those differences that you might be finding challenging or intimidating.
Yeah. And if you're in a relationship where you notice that your partner hardly says anything, so maybe there is an issue to discuss, a problem to solve, they hardly say anything. I want to encourage you to begin to call for their voice table, tell them. And if they say, well, I don't want to say anything because whatever I say, you don't listen to it. Well, maybe you begin to listen now, because, I think there's a wise saying. They say, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go with a team. Take opportunity of everyone available at the table. They're there because they have a value to bring.
Yeah. Difference is not a problem, it's a strength. Just want to read very quickly a few things I have in my notes. It says, difference stretches us, and it's good to be stretched because you will grow. It matures us because it helps us to build skills and develop skills we probably would not normally develop. It reveals blind spots that we didn't know we had. So when because we don't know what we don't know, you can't see the picture when you're in the frame. And so somebody else looking in sees something different to what you see. So giving them that freedom to express it really helps you have a bigger picture and a clearer picture of whatever it is you're looking at. So, but just one practical tip that you would give to someone that wants to start to, rather than control others, give them room to really show up as their true, authentic self. What's one practical tip you would give someone?
Listen. It seems to be one common line on this platform. Listening. Listening, because we all grew up with people telling us to speak up. How did you ever get anyone saying to you, listen? When they said listen, they want you to conform. But, I'm talking about listening. Listen to the voice, listen to the body language. Because they said 70% of every communication is in the body. What you hear. So listen, because that person is an entity, a God-created person full of strength and ideas. But if you stifle that person's voice, you're damaging that person and weakening the relationship. The process.
Yeah. Listen, that's a good one, because often when we talk about communication, we think about speaking. We don't think about listening. Listening is a good one. My top tip for you would be stay curious. Stay curious. If you stay curious, you will keep learning. You will keep growing. You will not be quick to judge. You will not be quick to make assumptions. You will not be quick to make conclusions. Just stay curious. So if somebody is doing something different to how you would do it, rather than say, why are you doing it that way? Why not this way? Help me understand why you're